Hold on.
We're gonna have to. Welcome back to the Dynasty Happy Hour. You haven't heard this voice in a little bit. I am back in the host seat. I'm here with my boys, James and Tyler. Another crazy week in the NFL is almost in the books. Fantasy teams either had like awesome highs. I scored like 170 points in one league, and then in one league I scored like 80. So welcome to Fantasy 2021. It's a blast. James, what's going on down there in Jersey?
Everything's fine in Jersey. Thanks for asking, bud. How you doing?
Oh, Mike Glennon guy. He's great.
Yeah, the Glennon guy, the neck guy. You know, we got a neck guy, we got a Glennon guy, and they're both not good guys.
He got a concussion today. I'm not surprised because it's really hard to support your head with a neck like that.
So I was watching America's Funniest Home Videos Animal Edition today, and there was one where two giraffes were sitting next to each other, and then they literally just like whap each other with their neck and head. And all I could think of was like, that's what happened to Glennon. There it is. Like that was the actual footage of the concussion.
I don't know. I'm a little bit older than you guys, but if you remember Merton Hanks, he was a defensive back for the Niners back when they used to win Super Bowls.
Sounds like actors from the 50s.
Yeah. Mike Glennon and Merton Hanks could have a neck off and just like whack each other. And I would sign up for that on pay-per-view.
So having a neck off and whacking each other, you can't say that, Doug. I mean, we'll get canceled.
Regardless of the fact, we'll get into it later.
Cut
but
that. No.
Mike Glennon, Daniel Jones, both bad news right now. They're both.
Who are you guys going to bring in?
Yeah. Oh gosh, hopefully
rookie.
somebody good. Aaron Rodgers.
They got two top 10 picks right now. So
yeah, both New York teams and Philadelphia. Gardner Minshew could. We'll
don't put the cart before the horse, my friend. Don't do that. All right, I'm ready to jump into it because like we've got a lot of games to talk about here. There was some pretty awesome performances and some pretty awful performances. We're gonna cover it all. We're gonna look at everything through a dynasty lens for you. So welcome to the show. Let's jump into it. So we had
some news.
Why do you
Marlon Humphrey out for the
him?
season?
Okay.
Separated shoulder. That's actually big news for going against Baltimore because they have actually been very bad against passing defenses.
And Humphrey's he was my lead defensive back in my IDP league. Great.
Well, that's your first problem is having a corner as your lead defensive back. You need the safeties. Man. Safeties all day.
Safeties.
I mean, Trayvon Diggs is paying off for me pretty
well.
That's
like a one-off season though. Let's be honest.
One-off season. Go ahead.
Anyway. He's not gonna. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Let's get into Thursday night football. We had the Cowboys and Saints. The Cowboys win this one. Taysom Hill takes over for the New Orleans Saints and breathes a little bit of life into the offense. So here's the thing with Taysom Hill. For fantasy, he was good unless you started him in Scott Fishbowl. He got 3 points because of all the negatives that go on with the unique scoring in Scott Fishbowl. But Taysom Hill, you've been probably sitting on him for a while. I think he's startable. He went over 100 yards rushing. He had a couple of touchdown passes. And the Cowboys, the strange thing about quarterback play this year is we had all these elite quarterbacks, right? And you're seeing Lamar Jackson struggle. You're seeing Dak Prescott struggle. Quarterback all of a sudden is kind of rough out there. Would you guys agree? There's nobody that's consistently putting up awesome weeks from week to week. It is Jalen Hurts has been the most consistent quarterback,
and that's
gross, right?
I mean, it's bad. All the rookies look bad, all of them.
Mac Jones has looked good.
Mac Jones looked like a pail of vanilla ice cream. Hey, sometimes you just feel like a little vanilla. It's cleansing. You don't feel too bad about yourself. That's not too bad. You know what? That could be good for some people, but in fantasy football, sometimes that doesn't do the job. Mac Jones is fine. He's a fine quarterback too.
Yes, I agree.
He's a fine quarterback too. But other than that, we came in thinking Trevor was it. Trevor Lawrence, he's the net. What the hell? We'll get into these rookies later, but the quarterbacks, we all thought these young guys would come in. We'd get a refresh. Drew Brees is gone. Eli Manning is gone. Here come the young guns to take. No. There hasn't been a refresh yet, and I think that's where we're at. Guys like Taylor Heineke are a quarterback too in Superflex leagues, and you're happy to have.
He's got a lot of QB1 weeks.
Yeah, it's it's very sad. And if you're expecting the next class to come in and take over, well, this class, I mean, good luck. It's not great, Bob.
Yeah, it's been a unique year. Quarterback play was so amazing last year, and then this year it's been a bit of a struggle. And we've seen a little bit of a shift in the NFL. Teams that are running the football a ton are winning, not teams that are passing the football a ton. So there's been a bit of a shift on that. But I want to talk about Cowboys, and we're talking dynasty. Michael Gallup gets you a touchdown in this one. He's one of the guys that I want to see go to. The Cowboys, I don't think re-sign him because
are you riding Gallup though? Are you riding him into
I'm saddling
playoffs?
up. I'm saddling up, and
okay.
I am ready to go wherever Gallup goes in free agency. I'm just hoping that he goes somewhere where there's, he would look really good on the Chargers if Mike Williams walks.
Nope, that's Josh Palmer.
He would look really good in Kansas City, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of spaces he could go because I think he's super talented. So, he gets a touchdown on this one. CeeDee Lamb has a nice game. Amari Cooper was more of a decoy coming off his 2-week absence because of COVID. But let's talk Zeke.
He looked a little light. Like Zeke light. I don't know. No, he doesn't have the ability right now to break through the offensive line. I think he only had one good 10-yard run like the real Zeke should have. And it seems like he's
rumors
just
are
there
that
to
he's
block.
hurt.
Yeah.
It looked like a hurt Ewok on Endor when the battle was going on.
Like he got shot in the leg by a laser
Yes.
blaster. Yeah.
Yeah. Like and I don't think it's Gurley-esque. Like the Gurley's drop off has been the most amazing drop off of a running back I've ever seen. I mean, we have guys like Adrian Peterson getting signed, and Gurley's sitting at home not getting a call. Yeah. I don't think it's that, but I mean, I feel like the savvy dynasty players saw this coming.
Yeah.
Like you see the drop off.
Like when I traded him to you.
Yeah, and then I traded him. I traded him like not long after.
No, you flipped him pretty quickly.
He's always been somebody that I just haven't been a fan of. Once a running back hits top value, I'm just never excited to have him because you're waiting for the drop. And if they're 25 and you're sitting there on a top asset, it's hard not to move on because the drop happens so quick. Like there was posts like, do you want Tony Pollard or Zeke? And Zeke was losing that poll on Twitter the other day. And honestly, I think I'd rather have Pollard. He's explosive. He doesn't need crazy touches or touchdown to be productive in fantasy. And
in deeper leagues, I've been starting Pollard every week.
Yeah.
Because he has like that, a relatively kind of like safe floor. He's not terrible, but then he always has the ability to rip off a 70-yard run. He does it every few weeks.
He's Tevin Coleman plus when Tevin Coleman was on Atlanta. Because Tevin Coleman, he was the big play guy. I think Pollard can do more than so
Coleman, I think I mentioned this early in the season. This reminds me of the when Larry Johnson was on the Chiefs and he had a ton of touches and he faded out real quick and Jamal Charles was behind him. And then Jamal Charles took over, and Jamal Charles still the all-time leader in yards per carry in the NFL, and he was amazing. I'm not saying Pollard is Jamal Charles, but it reminds me of that, like a workhorse running back that's seen a lot of mileage, and then faded off, relatively quickly, and then had his backup right behind him that took over, and they picked up right where they left off because Charles was, he was awesome, right? I remember the 5 touchdown game he had against the Raiders and got me a ton of points. Thank you, Jamal Charles. And then I remember when he finished his career as a Jacksonville Jag, and I was sad. So I don't have much for the Saints here. Taysom Hill, congrats. In Superflex, you have a startable quarterback if you've been sitting on him all season. But outside of that, little Jordan Humphreys making some plays here and there. Deonte Harris is a deep threat. Harris might be available in some of your dynasty league, a shallower dynasty league. He might be available, so I wouldn't mind picking him up and putting him at the end of a roster. But yeah, Kamara still missing time. Ingram was ineffective.
Speaking of running backs that are decreasing very quickly in value, Kamara is right there with that
Spider-Man meme with Christian McCaffrey all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to our next games here. I got to scroll up to make sure I'm following the old bouncing ball. Let's go to your Falcons, Tyler.
Do I have to?
Yes. So the Buccaneers, Tom Brady has a day. passes the ball 51 times. He had 4 touchdowns. Gronk gets 2 of them. Godwin doesn't score a touchdown, but he sets a season high in the NFL with 15 receptions for 143 yards. Brady was targeting him early and often. The big news for the Bucs this week was Antonio Brown falsifying his vaccination records because he's a douche. The rumor is that Tampa Bay might cut him. If you remember before the season started, Bruce Arians was all like pumped up and like, we're the first team that's fully vaccinated and this and that. AB just doesn't, this dude just doesn't, he can't keep his nose clean. He's an idiot. Like, he's talented as all hell, but he's an idiot. So I would not be surprised if they move on from him. Tampa Bay is winning games without him. They have other weapons in this offense they could use with Tyler Johnson. We've seen Scotty Miller. Darden. So keep an eye on that as Antonio Brown getting released. It would not shock me whatsoever. Talk about your Falcons here, though, Tyler. I mean, CPAT has a nice little game. Russell Gage has a nice game outside of the fumble that he had. And then Kyle Pitts, man, it's been a quiet month for Mr. Pitts.
7 targets. His target volume is fine. I think he's struggling because he's a rookie and he's getting all the focal defense. Like, the defense is focalized.
Well,
like,
New England schemed him out of the game a couple weeks ago,
and without Ridley, it's difficult for him. Yeah, I mean that's a whole nother.
I know.
That's a tough one. I mean,
are you trying to acquire Ridley?
You know me. Yes, I am, and I have in a lot of leagues.
Yep.
And it's because out of sight, out of mind. You're going to get him for cheaper. I do think he comes back next year for sure, but I have a hard time being like, you're not even letting the team know where you're at. Like, that's where I struggle with this whole Ridley thing.
Like, he stepped away. Like,
he stepped away, and they haven't not heard from him. And I mean,
he's pulling a Chappelle.
I'm not even going to jump into that. It's
fine.
It's a little upsetting for me, but Pitts, the defense is focalizing on him. He's 21 years old. He's a rookie. He's a tight end, and he's getting all this. He's getting double teamed, and he's getting he's getting tons of targets. His target share is
He was the chosen
insane.
one, Tyler.
Yes,
he was the manicorn.
He was the trade up.
I agree, but you know what? I'm not scared about it. I think Pitts is going to be just fine. He's getting tons of targets, and that's what you want to see out of a tight end. I still think he's a difference maker, and in 2 to 3 years, you're going to be like, okay, that's why we took him. That's why he was there, because now he's grown. He's finally like molded into this beast that we knew was going to happen, even though he's almost at 700 yards already.
Yeah, it's just a reminder that at the tight end position, it just takes a little bit of time.
Yes.
Trust me, if there's anyone you've ever heard say this, it's me, and I am the tight end collector. I have a problem.
It's weird and creepy.
But also, hey, what? I know it takes time, so that's why I've kept Dawson Knox on I've kept.
If you see a Dateline special that says a tight end collector, you know exactly who it is.
Yeah, it'll be me. But that's why I've kept guys like Dawson Knox, and I've had Parham for 2 seasons, Foster Moreau, because it's like these guys just take some time, and I'm okay with that. And Pitts, obviously, everyone in fantasy football wants the now, right? And you have to realize that there's going to be ups and downs with rookie tight ends because that's what happens. So be patient. I agree. Also for the Buccaneers, Leonard Fournette.
Wow.
He's coming on. He's coming on big.
This is what we expected when we took him at 101 in 2017.
Absolutely.
Speaking of it takes time. It just took a little time.
5 years later, it'll
Devontae Parker kind of track.
Oh God.
I don't know. If anything for Leonard Fournette, I think he's supplanted himself as the lead running back in that organization for the future as well.
Oh yeah, easily. And Ronald Jones got hurt in the first quarter, so it was just Fournette and Gio. And not that Jones digs into his workload much, but
no.
The best part about this is Fournette is a type of guy now that will take a $5 million a year contract just to stay with them because he knows that
it's a good gig for him.
It's a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm.
He found a home, and he's okay with not making crazy money, and he's okay with actually being productive. I'm so
glad when Fournette got cut by the Jags, I was able to flip him in a league for AJ Green. I got Fournette for AJ Green. So
Nice.
Loving
And
that.
also the AB news, amazing for Godwin. This is what you expect out of Godwin.
yeah.
And Godwin is going to get fed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Godwin is he's just good. All right, let's move on to the next game. We got the Cardinals against the Bears. This was the return of Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. They were both healthy in this game.
Kylo Ren Murray.
Kyler has a great game fantasy-wise. There was inclement weather, so there was a lot of rain in this game. We saw James Conner look really good again, and James Conner scores another touchdown. He's got double-digit touchdowns in the season. A one-handed grab.
One-handed grab from James Conner.
One-handed grab with his left, turned to his right, switched hands, and then went in for the touchdown.
He never did that in Pittsburgh. Ever.
No, he looks like he looks fresh. He looks like
the elderly go to Arizona because of the dry heat. The air is
AJ Green, Zach Ertz, Hopkins
it's a lot
is getting
nicer
older,
to your
JJ
body
Watt.
and your pores. And maybe Connor is just like, hey, this is great. I mean, I feel at home.
Yeah, Connor's been an RB1 on the season. It's crazy. Especially since he got signed very late in free agency and people were like, he has no value.
Speaking of,
and here we are.
I want to talk about declining assets. Hopkins, where is he at?
Yeah, Hopkins is a guy that I only roster him, I think, in the one league that you and I are in, Tyler. And he's a guy that
he won you a title.
He did. And I think he's a guy that it could play into his early 30s, but he's going to be that slot guy, kind of like he was last year. Like there hasn't been a lot of big Hopkins plays like there was. So he's a guy that I'm trying to probably pivot off of. If I can take Hopkins and get maybe an Elijah Moore plus, or, a move like that where I can get a younger receiver and then some, because Hopkins' name still carries weight. He's tied to a good quarterback in Kyler Murray. It's not like his value is stripped and it's gone, but the consistency that we used to have with DeAndre Hopkins, which used to be like what we're seeing from Justin Jefferson, right? Like 8 catches, 120 yards every single week. That used to be Hopkins, and that isn't anymore. He's more touchdown reliant. There's a lot of weapons in this offense. So I'm trying to move off of Hopkins. I want to talk about David Montgomery, though. He looked awesome today. Like David Montgomery was slippery. He was running hard. He was
wet. No.
David Montgomery had a great game. Like he was the standout for the Chicago Bears. Everyone else looked like doo-doo butter. It was David Montgomery, and I was really, really impressed with his performance. James, did you watch any of this game? And give me your take on Montgomery in this one.
I didn't see too much of Montgomery. Obviously, he did well. I'm looking at the numbers: 21 carries, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Great in the receiving game, which we haven't really seen too much of recently. 9 targets, 8 receptions, 51 yards. I mean, that's something that should be noteworthy, but also noteworthy that Khalil Herbert did get rotated into the offense. Just a little notch there, man.
Just a little bit.
I'm a fan of Herbert. I think Montgomery eventually will not be there in Chicago.
I do want to say Montgomery is another player that if he's on your team, he's worth more to you than you'll actually get, because he's an interesting type of player on your roster. Izzy, for an example, in UDPL, he's been trying to move him almost what feels like all year, and he has been able to. And it would probably only take a first, but I don't think anybody's willing to give up a first for Montgomery. Just I don't know what it is. He's a great player. He produces. I just think it's situation. He's coming up on the contract. Who knows what his future holds? Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of stall. So Montgomery, if you have him, you're probably better off holding him and keeping him on your team and just being happy with the production he gets. And another example that reminds me is CEH. I feel like he's going to be one of those type of players that you're never going to get the value that he deserves, but he's going to produce.
Yeah, and I'm still going out and trying to buy Cole Kmet if I can.
Yes.
7 more targets today. He struggled a little bit. He had a couple drops in this one, but I think he's super, super talented, and I think he could be the next tight end like we saw Dawson Knox this year. Cole Kmet could be a tight end 1 next year.
Yeah, we just have to wait for Nagy to get canned and for them to actually get Justin Fields some real reps.
Go hire Joe Brady. He got fired.
Mooney, 7 targets.
7
that's
targets.
Always good to see. Yeah, and we didn't mention that Joe Brady getting fired is the most puzzling thing in the world. I think it's the
Something
Panthers.
Must have happened.
It's the Panthers searching for a reason why their offense isn't producing.
Maybe Brady wanted out, and they were just like, "See you later."
Yeah,
So-
that could be it. Maybe Brady's just sick of the rotating carousel that is a quarterback. Like the Panthers never being like, hey, here's Teddy Bridgewater. And Brady's like, okay, let me figure out how to play. Oh, no, here's Sam Darnold. Oh, no, here's PJ Walker. Oh, hold on, here's Cam Newton. And maybe he's just like, I'm done. I'm out. Get me out of here.
This is bad. All right, let's move on for time's sake. Los Angeles Chargers. This was a weird game. The Chargers were up 24-0. The Cincinnati Bengals stormed back, and then turnovers from the Bengals. The Chargers end up winning this one 41-22. We saw a 300-yard, 3-touchdown game out of Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler, 2 fumbles, but he did save his day with a score. Keenan Allen, 2 touchdowns. If you listen to my other podcast, Guru Game Guidance, I predicted a multiple touchdown game for Keenan Allen. He only had 2 on the season, so he just doubled his touchdown count. So go me. But Mike Williams has a nice game here. He doesn't score, but he's over 100 yards. And then Cincinnati, I want to talk about we're seeing a little bit of the seesaw of wide receivers. You know, it used to be Jamar Chase was heavy. And then all of a sudden, the last couple of weeks, we're seeing more and more targets for T. Higgins. 14 targets in this one. 9 for 138 in a touchdown. I'm not concerned with Chase. He did drop what could have been a long touchdown.
He's done. I mean, he dropped the ball.
He's got the preseason jitters.
There it is.
So he's over.
Yeah, but T. Higgins is coming on, and I think that's great because T. Higgins is a guy that I heavily invested in the offseason because I saw this season being a potential breakout for him, and I think we're starting to see that towards the end of the season where T. Higgins is starting to come on strong. What's your guys' take on T. Higgins going forward?
I like T. Higgins. I've always been a fan of T. Higgins. I mentioned to people earlier in the season to go out and get T. Higgins on their rosters, especially when the noise was all around Jamar Chase. Listen, defenses are going to prepare for Jamar Chase. He is an elite level talent. That just leaves T. Higgins to be open a little bit more. And contrary to that, he had some contested catches today that were awesome. He's touchdown that he grabbed, like he was just up over 2 defenders. And I believe in the beginning of the game or before the game started, I was watching an interview between Joe Burrow and some reporter, and he said, "What's the wide receiver competition like in Cincinnati?" And Joe Burrow's response was, "It's great because there is none. They're all team players." And that's what we forget in fantasy, that these guys play as a team. They're not worried about their fantasy production. They're worried about putting points on the board. And T. Higgins is a great team player. He's going to be around on that franchise for quite some time. I believe he is worth the investment on your fantasy rosters if you haven't tried to get him already. I mean, it may be a little late after the showing today, but possibly wait until the offseason or a big game from Jamar Chase to go out and try to acquire him again.
Tyler, any other thoughts from this game other than the weird Jalen Guyton game? We see like one of these. We see one of these guys
year.
like pop, like Tyron Johnson last year. There's a guy that comes out of nowhere and pops off for one game, and today it was Jalen Guyton.
I'm just pissed it's not Jordan Palmer or Josh Palmer.
Yeah, he had 1 target for 0 catches.
I'm just. You use this 3rd-round pick, you're talking him up, and you're not really using him like a couple of games here and there. Like get him more involved. But my talk here is going to be about Joe Mixon. We saw him get hurt, a scary injury. He was very upset. He came back, didn't look as great. He should have
scored a touchdown though.
He should have dominated this game. I mean, the run defense for the Chargers is terrible. Another running back that you've got to have a red flag up after the season and probably try to move on because the value will only go down. And I know,
so sad to say though. I love.
I know. I mean,
how many of these top 10 running backs are we getting rid of this year? Are we
9 of them?
Any of them? Like 9 out of 10?
Dalvin Cook is another one. He's aging, and the thing is if you're contending, fine, hang on to them. But if you feel like your team is getting too old and you need to kind of hit the refresh button,
flip him to someone for multiple firsts.
Yes. And that's how you keep your team going. That's how you keep it rolling, and just the value, the perceived value of your team keep going up, like until you're just that dominating team. That's how you kind of do it. You just kind of recycle a little bit, and then when you're winning multiple titles, you draft well.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next game. The Detroit Lions get their first win of the season, 29-27. The Vikings defense rolls over with a minute left in the game.
Scratch the belly.
Amon-Ra St. Brown gets his first touchdown of his career. It's the first win of the season. He had 10 receptions for 86 yards in this one.
He's
and
good.
A touchdown. Yeah, I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown. We see Adam Thielen go down early in this one with an ankle injury. It was all Cousins. It was all Alexander Mattison, who had 90 yards and a touchdown, replacing Dalvin Cook this week, and Justin Jefferson. 11 for 182 and a touchdown on 14 targets for Jefferson. This kid,
unbelievable.
Dynasty wide receiver 1 to me, Justin Jefferson. He is just amazeballs. It doesn't matter who's on him. It doesn't matter if there's no other passing game threat. He's just that good. Ty Conklin looked pretty good in this one too. But
Irv Smith, those are Irv Smith's targets.
I know.
Every time I see it, I'm like,
freaking Irv Smith. That's a guy that if you can get on the cheap.
Yes.
I like Irv Smith a lot. This one was an interesting game. Jamal Williams filled in okay for DeAndre Swift, who's out for hopefully only 1 week, but it might be more. Hawkinson gets you a touchdown for the second week in a row, so that's nice. But James, what do you got from this game? Anything that stood out to you that you want to address?
Not really too much. I would say Madison is the guy there to be had. Like Tyler was saying,
23 years old.
Tyler was saying, Dalvin Cook is on that tier of dumping, I guess, or
dumping. You're recycling,
refreshing,
putting him out to pasture at this point.
Well, the one way to refresh in your car when you can still get some money for it to get a nice newer car that's going to last you a little longer.
You're replacing your air freshener in your car.
Madison in the past has been okay. I think he's taken a step in the right direction this year. His receiving game is up. Through the tackles, the ability to break tackles from last year to this year is night and day. He did have a problem with that last year. He seems to be running at a better pace. Not the Dalvin Cook pace. He never will be that breakaway running back, but he has some talent, and he fits in this offense very, very well. And I think that's a piece that you would want to go out and acquire for moving forward, especially with injuries to Dalvin Cook continuously year after year.
Yeah, I'm just thankful that in most of my dynasty leagues, I have Cook and I also have Madison.
Of course, you should.
So, thank God.
Sometimes you don't.
Yeah. Sometimes you don't, and then you're like,
damn. Because
running back's tough. This point in the season, there's so many injuries. Like, people are starting Rex Burkhead in leagues this week. Like, that's how bad it is. Yeah. Tyler, anything on this one before we move on?
Justin Jefferson's unguardable. There was a period in this game where him and the corner got into it face to face, and all I can think of is, what does the corner have to say to Justin Jefferson that actually would have weight? Like, hey, I'm supposed to be covering you this game. Like that's like the best thing he's got, because Jefferson owned him all game, and then maybe his rebuttal was like, hey, the defensive coordinator told me to shadow you all game. That means I'm okay, right? I didn't understand what he had against Jefferson to talk smack about. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I mean, his targets are getting greater every week, and he just seemed like he was Goff's go-to. And hey, another season, a new quarterback. Amon-Ra is going to be a decent slot receiver that is going to be a perfect wide receiver 3 for your dynasty team, and I still think he's obtainable. So I would go out and get him. Hawkinson had some bad drops, which he's had a problem with his career, which is kind of a little worrisome. But, I mean, at tight end, you'll take what you can get, is kind of the landscape we have. And I completely agree with the Madison take. He's a perfect guy to go out and get. He's still 23 years old. I think he's the running back after Cook. There's got to be an opportunity for Vikings to get out, because Vikings are not the most cat-friendly team in the NFL.
No, they're always right up against it.
Yep.
When we go real fast, can we go back to Amon-Ra St. Brown? Because this is the first game that he's had double-digit targets. Do you think the targets came because of DeAndre Swift being out of the offense?
A little bit, yeah.
I think, a lot of them were on that last drive. So I think he had 4 or 5 catches at least on that last drive. So it's a little bit of an inflated number for me. His target numbers have been relatively consistent week to week. I also like the role that kind of Josh Reynolds is playing on this team.
Yes, very sneaky.
You mean number 8, Josh Reynolds?
Yes.
That's hard.
It's weird. But I love Josh Reynolds when he was with the Rams. Then he signs with Tennessee For whatever reason, he wasn't a fit there. He asked for his release. I think that Josh Reynolds may have found a home in Detroit, and he could be there long term.
He could be the Marvin Jones.
He was cheap in a lot of dynasty leagues, or he was available. I picked him up, I think, in 2 dynasty leagues in the past couple of weeks. So just keep an eye out for him. I've always liked the talent. So we'll see what happens there. All right, let's get to the next game. The Miami Dolphins are on a winning streak. They've won 5 in a row now. They're 6-7, beating the Giants, who are now 4-8. The Giants without Daniel Jones this week. Neck and neck, Mike Glennon comes in. There wasn't really any fantasy goodness whatsoever in this game for the Giants.
I'm up to my neck with the Giants.
He had Glennon had a deep ball that you're like, oh, here comes the big. What the? It went like 40 yards, went straight up in the air like Russell Wilson's do, but didn't have any yardage after it hit.
It was that rainbow.
It was literally a rainbow and then just dropped straight down like it.
It was
like
like
a
last
lawn
year,
dart.
Peyton Manning.
It was like a lawn dart. Like it just went straight up and then dropped. And it's like, what the hell was that?
The front of the ball was heavily weighted.
Yes.
I mean, besides Mike Glennon being the starting quarterback this week, this game gave reason to why they got rid of Jason Garrett right after Tampa Bay, because it really didn't matter. They didn't need to wait until Miami to do so. This offense is depleted. All right. We're playing without Sterling Shepard, without Kadarius Toney. Saquon Barkley is limited in what he can do. It looks like they're only giving him he had 10, 11 carries today.
9 targets.
9 targets for 19 yards.
6 catches.
Yeah, the offense is
Jarvis
not
Landry. Jarvis Landry's blushing at those numbers.
That's like Keenan Allen-esque.
I mean, I'd hate to say it, but who looked the best for the Giants today was Evan Ingram. Caught 4 out of 5 of his targets for 60 yards. Like that. Yeah. For Evan Ingram, that's shocking because that usually doesn't happen either. But all in all, the Giants, I'm a big fan, obviously, but man, I'm not looking to.
Yes, let's go to the other side.
Can we talk Tua? Because I think Tua, I mean,
he's leveled up.
He leveled up.
Yeah, I mean, his completion percentage. Now he's not doing anything super risky, right? But his completion percentage, I think, is almost 70% on the season. He had the highest completion percentage in the month of November, I believe. He gets 2 touchdowns here. Jalen Waddle is going to catch 100 balls.
That helps. Yes, that helps a lot with his completion percentage.
My hot take.
Yeah. 11 more targets, 9 for 90. Devontae Parker comes back from injury. He had an okay game and not a great matchup because Bradbury's a good corner. And then we saw Gesicki get double-digit targets again. 7 for 46. I still like Gesicki. He's going to be interesting. He's a free agent at the end of the year to see what happens there. But I want to talk Tua and Waddle. So this could be a combo for a lot of years in Miami if Miami decides that Tua is going to be the guy and they put those Deshaun Watson or bring in another quarterback.
I think this locked it up. I mean, this has to have locked it up.
They're in playoff contention now. They've won 5 in a row. Tua hasn't done anything to cost them games. He's looked pretty good now that he's healthy. Yeah, I think Tua is on the rise.
I mean, that would leave Carolina and Denver for Watson possibly next year. Philly. Yeah, I mean, God, Jalen Hurts, every time you think he's finally broken through that wall, Gardner Minshew says, I mean,
there could be places in Green Bay for Deshaun Watson,
yeah.
Seattle.
I mean, I think Green Bay,
Pittsburgh,
the stubbornness of Green Bay.
What if Deshaun Watson went to Pittsburgh?
That would be a great fit. You got Claypool that he can just loft it up to.
Najee, Freiermuth.
I'm sold.
Instant win now team.
I'm sold. Yep, it's going to be Pittsburgh.
Watson, Pittsburgh.
I can get behind that.
Yep.
Yeah. I just this Miami team and Waddle is
amazing.
So everybody was like, it was Devonta Smith and Chase and like Bateman, then Waddle. Waddle's definitely up there with Chase, in my opinion. I'd say if you've got Chase and Waddle, I'd say Chase is probably worth a little more on a team, but Waddle's right there, and it's just the PPR floor. I mean, he's going to get you 8-10 targets
Chase has the higher ceiling, but Waddle's got a rock solid concrete floor for sure.
And I mean, I've got Waddle in a bunch of leagues, and I'm sitting here like, hey, I mean, I'm sitting at 15 points, and I feel like that's what I expect week to week now, just from the volume he's getting. And it fits, like we all said, it fits perfect with what Tua needs to do. He doesn't have the biggest arm, or he's not showcasing the big arm that he might have. We haven't seen it yet, but as Tua grows as a player, which he's got time to do, and we've seen this with Brady, hey, there's still a ceiling to Tua. So Tua could still break through this crazy ceiling that we all expected him to have. We're just not seeing it right now because he's still growing mentally as a player. So
they're still growing as a team as well. Like their run game is very suspect. Some
I
older
can't wait
wide
for them
receivers.
to bring in a running back in the offseason.
Will
Breaking
Fuller
news.
hasn't been there all year. Devontae Parker finally came back, but it did not destroy Waddle's targets at all, which is a great sign. So I think Waddle moving forward is great.
Breaking news. Logan Thomas suffered a season-ending ACL and MCL injury.
Don't tell me that.
Yeah, not great, Bob. I've got Logan Thomas. He was my tight end last year that I got everywhere, and he popped off. So, yeah. Not great. All right, let's go to the next game. Let's go to Philadelphia beating the Jets 33-18. No Jalen Hurts this week, and they brought in Gardner Minshew, and Gardner looked good. 20 of 25, 242 and 2. They threw the ball 25 times, but Philadelphia committed to the run with 41 rushes. Boston Scott was active. If you started him, whoops, because he didn't see a single touch. Miles Sanders touches it 24 times for 120 yards. Kenny Gainwell gets a touchdown, and he was active in the passing game. But this was a Dallas Goedert game. 6 for 105 and 2 touchdowns. Devonta Smith, great matchup. 2 for 15. That's the thing with Devonta that's been driving me crazy. He has the 2 touchdown game a couple of weeks ago. And then he puts like these 2 reception, 3 reception games together. He's just super inconsistent.
I want to mention that with Smith, he usually lines up on the outside. Gardner being on a newer team and stuff, I feel like he felt comfortable in the middle of the field. It was obvious the way he targeted Goddard. So yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and but Dallas was pretty wide open on a couple of those plays. Yeah. For the Jets, it was a Tevin Coleman-led backfield again. Ty Johnson, 1 carry. Like, okay. So if you've been rostering Tevin Coleman, like he's getting carries, cool. You could probably use him at this point in the season. Zach Wilson had a really good first half. He threw a touchdown to Elijah Moore, who is definitely breaking out. 12 targets. He finally did it with Zach Wilson as quarterback. 6 for 77 and a touchdown. Crowder got a few targets here and there. Corey Davis was active in this one, but he re-injured his groin, whatever. Denzel Mims had a catch, so I was happy for 4 yards. But not a lot of interesting stuff in this game. But Elijah Moore is definitely climbing up the ranks because his last 5 or 6 weeks, he's been a rock solid wide receiver 2, and he's had some wide receiver 1 week. So Elijah, he was the preseason guy that everyone was hyping up, for what he did at college. And he was blowing up training camp, and then it was quiet. So if you were able to acquire Elijah Moore when the noise died down, congrats, because it is definitely turning into a dub when it comes to trade value for Elijah Moore. James, in this class, where would you have Elijah Moore ranked at wide receiver? Is he a top 4 for you in this class?
Top 4.
So Chase Waddle. Now this is when it gets tough.
I'd still have Devontae Smith in that conversation.
Moore.
I think he's surpassed Bateman.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you could label him as a number 4.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, and Elijah Moore was a fringe first rounder in drafts.
Quick note for this game, Miles Sanders did re-injure his ankle that he hurt in week 8. So that maybe wheels up for Kenneth Gainwell going forward.
Who looked very good.
Today. Like he has his on and off.
Jets.
Against the Jets.
He's been super inconsistent. Yeah.
But it might open up a little selling window for Kenneth Gainwell if your leagues are still trading.
Everybody's sitting here saying, "Hey, Gainwell would be perfect in that Nyheim Hines role." Well, that's what he's playing because Nyheim Hines is exactly like this. You never know when to start him.
Yeah.
But there's those weeks when you're like, okay, this is it. And I think the only hurdle is really Boston Scott for Gainwell to kind of level up, kind of like what we're seeing with rookies here. So I think 2022 is when Gainwell should gang value.
Agreed. All right, let's move on. This game shouldn't take long.
Gainwell the value.
Yes, his value will gain well. Indianapolis Colts win 31-0 over the Houston Texans. Tyrod Taylor gets benched in this one. Davis Mills comes in. They go for a very Cam Newton stat line of 11-27 for 57 yards and a pick. Rex Burkhead gets 8 carries. The Texans are just gross. I'm still trying to get like Brevin Jordan when I can, though. And for the Colts, man, it's Jonathan Taylor's world, and we are just hanging out in it. 32 for 143, 2 more touchdowns. Michael Pittman has a nice game, 100 total yards from scrimmage, doesn't score.
I love the carries from Michael Pittman. I'm sorry to cut you off, Doug, but
no, 2
we
for
haven't
33
seen
was
that,
nice.
and he's starting to take on a little bit more of a versatile role. Even though he doesn't have that flashy speed, he's still able to get those wraparounds and move upfield and get positive gain with his legs rather than just catching the ball. Just adds another piece of dynamic ability to his game, and I'm loving Pittman. I really do.
Yeah, I have Pittman in a few spots, and he's been a definitely a breakout second year. He's a wide receiver 2 on the season. But Jonathan Taylor, man, like it just doesn't. He's so
not going to stop either. It's great. If you have him, don't get rid of him.
Yeah, agreed. Like I don't know why you would.
What idiot! I mean, honestly,
you gotta be an idiot to sell Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to get a Godfather offer of
that's what
players up the wazoo. Yeah.
You know what? I'm just not even going to respond every time because I'll eat some crow.
Yeah,
but you guys all know what I meant. You guys all know what I meant.
Shut your mouth.
All the people in the back, you know what I meant.
You know what I meant. All right, let's move on. That game sucked. I mean, it was all Colts all the time. The Texans are a dumpster fire. Cool. So Washington versus the Raiders. Washington on a bit of a win streak. They're 6-6 now, as are the Raiders. They win 17-15. Tyler, got you the breaking news with Logan Thomas out for the season. Maybe that makes Ricky Seals-Jones relevant again, or my boy Sammis Reyes for all you really deep cuts out there at the tight end position.
Or Bates.
Bates
Motel.
Yeah, Master Bates. I love it.
John Master Bates.
Master Bates. So Tyler Henneke has another nice game in this one, and he's a rock solid QB2 in Superflex this year. Even though like they were limited, Henneke just under 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Antonio Gibson got the workload we thought he would. I thought he would have a huge game this week.
He did. He got the targets.
It wasn't huge.
Yeah, the nice thing was he got 6 targets, and that's what you wanted to see.
I mean, no J.D. McKissick. The touchdown. So I was tilting off of Terry McLaurin this week because the Raiders secondary, their corners have been really good.
Yeah.
So like McLaurin, I knew this was going to be a down week for Terry.
I wish you would have shared that memo.
If you listen to Guru Game Guidance, man, it was in there. Logan Thomas, though, he does get the touchdown, so that was his swan song for the year, unfortunately. Not a lot to talk about for Washington football team.
Before you say it.
Go ahead.
So, in the game, Kenyon Drake got hurt. Bad injury. Hope he's okay. Yep. The second that happened, all I thought was wheels up for Josh Jacobs. If he can stay healthy, this dude is getting target after target after target. 9
targets, 9 receptions.
Caught all 9. Hey, 38 yards. But this is what we saw Josh Jacobs in college. Mm-hmm. This is exactly what we expected when we took him 101 in that class. So, Jacobs, hey, if you were the person that tried to go out and buy him cheap, here you go, because it is him. I don't think Drake will be back for a little bit.
Yeah, he got creamed.
Yeah, that was bad.
We'll see, though. I mean, he's been pretty durable in his career. But I want to talk about Hunter Renfrow. Like, another dude, now I'm not comparing him to Justin Jefferson, but Hunter Renfrow just gets open.
You can't compare him because he's more like Julian Edelman, Danny
like
Amendola,
Wes Welker. How did he not get drafted by the Patriots? It drives me insane every time I see him play football. 9 for 102 on 10 targets. He's their leading receiver by far. If you started Foster Moreau this week,
I did.
1 catch for 34. He missed a touchdown on a great play by Cole Holcomb, who contested it, and he could have had a touchdown. Brian Edwards, so frustrating with Brian Edwards. Like, I guess, is anybody buying Brian Edwards on this podcast?
Done with him.
So I tried buying Hunter Renfrow in the UDPL. I gave a mid to early second I offered in a Superflex league for Hunter Renfrow, and it was almost an instant decline.
Decline? Really? That's very interesting. I mean,
he's one of the only bright spots in their receiving game outside of Darren Waller. So,
even Waller hasn't been that much of a bright spot in the last.
If it had been before the Henry Ruggs news, then you probably could have gotten that done. But ever since Ruggs left the organization, Renfro has just taken the next step, and he's going to be a part of that team going forward for a while, and fantasy teams for that matter. And he's playable on a consistent weekly basis. So his value is on the rise.
Yep. All right, let's keep it moving. Los Angeles Rams moved to 8-4. They win 37-7 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. For Jacksonville, James Robinson fumbled early. He was benched. Carlos Hyde out-touched him, scored a touchdown. So obviously that's a situation to keep an eye on. Laviska Shenault, 5 targets, 3 for 30.
So
I'm still holding.
Guess who started Laquan Treadwell in a league this week?
You did.
This guy.
Nice. He's got 2 thumbs and started Laquan.
I saw Laquan Treadwell and Tavon Austin give each other a high five, and I said 2015 me would be nuts and ecstatic about this.
Just 2 first-round wide receivers hanging out.
Yes. Or wait, was it 2016 Treadwell was the dude? No, it was 15.
It was 15, I think, yeah.
Yep. Man.
Yeah. For the Rams, Stafford has a great game here. Now, hopefully you follow Twitter because Jay Glazer said Darrell Henderson is going to be active, but it's going to be Sony Michel that carries the load. Yeah. Henderson didn't touch the ball. Michel, 24 for 121 and a touchdown. I actually started him over Darrell Henderson because I follow Twitter. So I was like, thank you, God, because I needed points. But I want to talk about Cooper Kupp. Dude, he's the first receiver. He's got 100 receptions on the season already, guys. Wow. He's got double-digit touchdowns.
Yeah, 1,000 touchdowns.
He has been the most consistent fantasy producer at the wide receiver position week in and week out. And it's crazy. I mean, he's on a historic pace. He could break Michael Thomas's reception record this year. It could happen.
It wouldn't shock me. And the nice part, we're talking a lot about patience in this podcast. And Van Jefferson is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ups and downs. He seemed to be like a third. He's too slow. You know what? He is that kind of deep threat, does it all type player now. Mm-hmm. And even when Woods was healthy, he was still fantasy viable. And it's just really good to see. And you know what else is going to be good to see? Cam Akers in this offense in the playoffs.
Yes.
It's coming.
Every time I see a Rams running back have a good game, I just close my eyes and envision Cam Akers doing so much better.
I have a lot of Akers shares.
Sell Sony Michel now if you can.
The thing with Akers is you just hope that he breaks the trend of the Achilles and how everybody's like, oh, it's done. It's an Achilles. If Akers can
Deonte Foreman had 100 yards rushing against the Patriots. That's a guy that tore his Achilles.
I mean, Adrian Peterson did it.
CJ Uzama, he tore his Achilles. He's been decent this year.
But with Akers, I just hope he does because it just kind of breaks that mold. And I'm kind of sick of hearing like, oh, that's an Achilles. It's done. Just drop him. I kind of want that trend to end. So I'm double rooting for Akers in this aspect, even when I don't have him on a roster, because I just want this trend of Achilles injuries to break.
Yeah, I just traded for Akers a few weeks ago.
In the chat, Mike, Emmanuel Sanders. That's another player that has broken the Achilles trend.
That's true. Yeah, I forgot about him. That is very true. I went out and acquired Akers a few weeks ago. I gave up Chuba Hubbard and a couple of decent draft picks in Pigs 2, and I'm happy as a pig in S. Let's put
last question for this game. Trevor Lawrence, where would you have him ranked in rookie quarterbacks right now? Like if you were to redraft in Superflex, where would you have Trevor?
Ooh. You got to think long term. I still believe the talent's there.
I think Urban is back. I have a weird feeling Urban is back.
I mean, they made a big investment in him, so it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. I still think Trey Lance was still the best quarterback in this class.
I have Lance as one.
I think I might put Lawrence over Fields.
For me, it'd be Lance, Lawrence, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson.
Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond would be
Felipe Franks.
He just threw a pick after you said that. Thanks.
Nice. Yeah, I think the Trevor Lawrence thing is
Mac Jones.
It reminds me a lot of Peyton Manning's rookie year. He
Not
was
me.
not good in his rookie year. I think Trevor Lawrence eventually will be fine, but it's going to be a matter of patience.
I think they're going to
Coaching.
have to build the offense around his strengths and actually just work around that.
Well, they got to protect him too.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's a whole
And
part of it. It's a rebuild franchise. So when you bring in a new franchise quarterback, they're not obviously going to be excellent out the gate. But on the other hand, he has made some very, very poor decisions. He has
yes.
bad ball control. He's gotten a turnover in at least, I don't know, almost every single game he's played this season.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And
His issue you hear is reading defenses, and he hasn't quite gotten a hold of that yet. It might take time, and yes, he's got the talent still. He's going to get Etienne back next year, which is another player you got to keep your eye on. I mean, if Urban stays, Urban is going to prove the reason why he drafted Etienne. And with Robinson fumbling this job away, it feels, honestly, would not be shocked Etienne actually comes in as the
1A.
Yeah, the 1A in this backfield. And
I agree.
If that's the case, you got to be given some picks for Etienne right now, because that could be a really good trade right now.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the Pittsburgh Steelers beating the Ravens.
Ugh.
Annoying. The Ravens went for 2 at the end of this game. This was an ugly game for the most part. Lamar throws another ugly pick. He gets a touchdown to save his fantasy day, I guess, at the very end of the game to Sammy Watkins, of all people. I thought this was going to be I started Rashad Bateman in a league over Devontae Parker because I was like, you know what? This could be a Bateman game, and he has 1 target for no catches. So egg on my face. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Rashad.
I don't think it's Bateman's fault.
No,
put it on Lamar.
It's not. For Pittsburgh, Ben Roethlisberger, supposedly he's telling his insider people that he's not coming back at the end of the year. So I think
and they're telling him, hey,
yes,
that makes our job so much easier.
Yes, bye-bye. But I think Pittsburgh is going to be one of the, if not the most intriguing spot to see what quarterback lands there because of the weapons that they have in that offense. I would love to see an Aaron Rodgers, a Deshaun Watson, a Russell Wilson, pretty much name any decent to good quarterback land in Pittsburgh. I would love it to go with Najee Harris and Deante Johnson and Chase.
Deante Johnson, man.
And Freiermuth.
Freiermuth would wheels up if Watson goes there, because Watson does love the tight end when he's rolling out.
And he's played on a team where the offensive line has been terrible, so it's not going to be anything new to him. Najee, he's the ball hog here. 21 carries. He had 5 receptions, so he puts together an okay day. But Deante Johnson, just another week with double-digit targets. I think Deante Johnson, if you were going into this season, a lot of people were like, the drops. He's dropped 1 pass all season now. Drops are not a real sticky stat, but Deante Johnson is out there. A lot of when they drafted him, a lot of the comparisons were to Antonio Brown. I don't think he's the same player as Antonio Brown, but he's definitely Antonio Brown light to me. 8 for 105, 2 touchdowns. He can stretch the field if he needs to. So Deante Johnson, I think he's a wide receiver 1. I don't care who the quarterback is necessarily. I just think he's that good. Would you guys agree?
He's a wide receiver 1 that you can get for a wide receiver 2 price.
Yep, that's about it.
And it will never change. And it's because of guys like Harris in the offense, and it's because of guys like Claypool. The hope of Claypool will always keep his value down, because everybody will see this monster of a man built like a tight end, but can do all these things like a wide receiver in Claypool and think he's going to take over. So having Claypool there actually helps lower Johnson's value. And I think it'll stay that way until probably it's too late to acquire Johnson.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. James, any thoughts on that?
I mean, Johnson's just straight hyper targeted. There's no other way to put it. He gets over 10 targets per game. Of course, he's going to have a good game. Yeah, he is the wide receiver 1 in that option. And I don't know if Chase Claypool lowers his value. I really don't think so. I think he has
keeps the value down, because if this was say a Rashad Bateman, I mean, he'd be a wide receiver 1. His value would be way higher than, and maybe it's draft capital because he's a 3rd round pick, but that's kind of got to go away after a couple of years and insane production. So, I mean, that's my rebuttal against it is
we don't know what the future is going to hold in Pittsburgh. Obviously, with Big Ben leaving, he's obviously Big Ben's favorite target.
I think he'll be any quarterback's favorite target.
Exactly. I mean, if Rodgers were to go, would he not be a Devontae Adams type player? I mean, the play style is very similar.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's going to be an intriguing storyline for sure.
The thing with that is a team like Houston won't be able to bring in a quarterback of a bigger name because there's going to be a lot available. But Tomlin being a head coach, it's going to be so easy for them to be like all Tomlin has to be like, hey, come here. And they'll be like, okay, I'll sign. Like that. Tomlin's such a good coach.
It's an attractive spot for sure.
History, coaching, the offense around him, and having a young running back that can do it all. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to have a problem finding somebody.
Nope. Not at all.
See you, Ben.
All right, let's move on to the last game in the 4:00 slate. It was the Seattle Seahawks winning 30-23 over the Niners. This was the vintage George Kittle game that we've all been waiting for. He goes for 9 for 181 with 2 touchdowns with Deebo Samuel out of the lineup on 12 targets. He looked awesome. I thought this was going to be a big game for Brandon Ayuk. 3 for 55, not so much. But I do want to talk about Elijah Mitchell's usage. There wasn't another running back on the roster that saw a carry. He had all 22 of them. He did score a touchdown.
False. Jeff got a carry. It got called back due to penalty.
So it didn't count. So I'm not a liar. But he also had 3 receptions for 18 yards. Elijah Mitchell, I think, is dare I say the future for the 49ers. Like they love Elijah Mitchell, and it is glaringly clear. So I love that, especially when you get Trey Lance maybe next year as your starting quarterback.
It's not a maybe. I mean, honestly, after this game, there's a chance we could see Trey Lance later on, like week 15, when they're out of playoff contention. If they are, I mean, Trey Lance
they're 6-6, so it's the NFC and AFC. If you're 6-6 or 1 game below 500, you're going to be in it, I think, until the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm in a dynasty league where we have 12 teams. And 8 teams make the playoffs. It's a home league. That's how it was set.
That's a lot.
And this is pretty much what the NFL is like. Like, hey, you could be 4-12 and make the playoffs. Like that's kind of like what it reminds me of.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Seattle. Russell Wilson looked better this week. He did have a couple of touchdowns. No Alex Collins in this one. Woo, no one cares. Rashad Penny, if you roster him, just let him go. Like. He's not good. And this is
actual Penny or Rashad Penny. Go.
An actual Penny. So for me, I'm gonna take a small victory lap on this one because when Rashad Penny came out and he came out of San Diego State, I was not the first. I was very adamant about he is a system running back. We saw what Donnell Pumphrey did in that offense. I was not in on Rashad Penny. He was a top 5 pick in most rookie drafts.
Yep.
So I've dodged that bullet, and seeing Penny 10 carries, 35 yards. Like he's just not it. He's always injured. Waste. It's like a Royce Freeman pick. You used a 1st-round pick on him, and it just didn't work out. And those things happen. We did see D. Eskridge finally score a touchdown. He had 3 targets and 3 catches. We all thought DK was going to have a big game. He was quiet. He did get 8 targets. Tyler Lockett leads the way with a touchdown and 68 yards. Like this, Seattle is still struggling on offense, and
so don't look at the box score when it comes to Homer. It was a fake punt, 75-yard touchdown.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't do
that.
No.
He had 4 catches. What is mind-blowing to me is Seattle not using DJ Dallas as the pass catching back because hey, this guy was a receiver in college. He is good at receiving passes and doing things with them. He showed it in college. He's showed flashes in the NFL, and yet they're not using him like that. They gave a guy like Adrian Peterson 11 carries for 16 yards, but he did get that touchdown. Thank God. But man, I don't know what it is with this offense. I mean, you take D. Eskridge in the 2nd round when you had other holes everywhere. I mean, you could have went running back in this draft too. We had somebody in the chat ask about, Mostert coming back next year. Mostert's going to be 31, I think, next year. I mean,
I don't care about Raheem Mostert.
Yeah, he's done.
They like him. Mostert could go back to being like a 7 carry type guy.
Change of pace.
Yep. Mitchell's going to be the guy. He's proven it. Yes, he gets nicked up, but man, he's shown for his size. He's not a monster of a man. He's probably like 210, 208, 210.
He's like 215, I think.
Yeah, and I think Mostert will actually help him be better too. and kind of take the load off a little bit. But it's going to be Mitchell, and it's the James Robinson type thing. Are you going to give up a first for Mitchell? Honestly, a late first for Mitchell, I'm game. Give me Mitchell.
I saw a couple tweets about him being a top 12 dynasty running back.
Yeah,
and that's why I went out and spent all my fab the moment I saw him on waivers. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I just activated him from a taxi squad 2 weeks ago because I was like, you know what? I could use some running back help.
You're the real winner.
And
You're
I
the
spent
real
like
winner that you
nothing on
drafted
him.
Yeah.
I took him at 406 and I got laughed at by the Trace Sermon owner. And I said, yeah, you've got. So I posted a tweet today when I said, hey, Trace Sermon is the poor man's Carlos Hyde. And I'm not talking about Carlos Hyde when he got drafted. I'm talking about Carlos Hyde now. That's Trace Sermon. And I'm not wrong. I've seen more from Carlos Hyde this season than I have from Trace Sermon. So,
yeah, I went back this week. Actually, Tyler and I were talking off air, and I went back this week and looked at their college highlights, and I wanted to know why Elijah Mitchell did not get found. Why he dipped so low in the draft. Do good at school, guys.
It's not. Maybe try to like. The Division II type schools have a harder time getting recognized. Mitchell, he's a good runner, and it reminds me a lot of his situation. Reminded me a lot of Chase Edmonds. We had a guy
out of Fordham.
We used to have a guy at DHH right for us who had a running back algorithm.
Eckler's another one,
and his algorithm showed that Chase Edmonds was his favorite running back value and one of his favorite running backs in his chart and his algorithm. And we had him on the draft a little bit, and I talked to him a little bit, and I mean, same thing. Mitchell was another running back that was one of his favorites that did well in his algorithm. But I mean, these small school running backs, I mean, Devin Singletary is probably the one that hasn't hit, but Mitchell, there's a lot of truthers, a lot of people that liked him. So, yeah, that's why you got to expand your followers in Twitter is, just don't take a couple takes here and there. Actually look at other people, see what they're saying, and kind of see why they're saying it, because, hey, there's a lot of smart people out there, and you got to listen. You got to expand a little bit.
Absolutely. Expand your mind, like the Matrix, which I'm excited about. So before we wrap up, any last words, any thoughts on this week 13 before we get out of here, James?
No, not really, man.
We covered it. Nice.
Yeah, we pretty much covered it.
Tyler?
Javonte, in his first career full workload, 14 for 59, and 3 catches for 47. So here's a glimpse. Here's a glimpse of the future for a nice RB1 next season.
I'm so happy I got him at the 109 in one league because I was like, I'm going to take best player available, and that's Javonte Williams.
Yeah.
So
he was a 201 in a Superflex IDP league for me.
Wow.
Sheesh. That's amazing.
201?
That's crazy. I just want to give a shout out to Fantasy Points. Make sure you check out their website. Lots of great content on there. You can find just a gaggle of great podcasts as well as free articles. They do have some subscriptions. I know it's getting towards the end of the season, but there are some options for you out there on Fantasy Points.
And Mike in the chat, who's stuck with us all show. Thanks you for
Mike.
watching, and thanks, Mike. You are our fan, but you know what? We're a fan of you. We're just a fan of you. You can't believe you stuck it out the whole show. Like,
the reason why we do it is for Mike.
That's
right.
Just Mike.
And people like me, Mike.
Just Mike. No, just Mike.
That's awesome. So, all right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for listening to the Dynasty Happy Hour this week. Go on iTunes. Maybe you got us there. Leave a review. Leave us a rating. It makes us, get up there in the charts and more people find this awesome Dynasty podcast that we all love so much. Thank you, Mike. So for me, I'm Doug at the Fantasy Father on Twitter. For James at FF_Chef and Tyler Gunther at DHH_Tyler. This has been the Dynasty Happy Hour. We'll see you next time.